No, I didn't get taken out by the Rona, but unfortunately, with the Dementia Joe in the White House, I'll bet some of you are wishing that you did. No, I don't have the made-up disease, and no, I did not get taken out. Well, that's not fair. The disease actually exists. The scale on which it exists and the restrictions that go in place with it, those are a little bit questionable. Do I think the masks do anything? No. Do I think the lockdowns do anything? No. Do I think we should be able to, as adults, make choices for ourselves on what we do out there in the free world? Yes. But of course, being in New York, that is against its ethos. Welcome to the P99 collection update. I figured out I have Zippo collection updates. Why not have P99 collection updates? I understand that this is a little bit more expensive, but you're not exactly out gallivanting, spending money all over the place during the Rona. So why not spend it on things like guns? You noticed in my last video that was actually way back when this thing was invented, or excuse me, the pandemic started, I got to my nice Dan Wesson Kodiak. So, a little bit more disposable money now with less expenditures out there. So, I did happen to purchase a few more P99s in the interim. And I'm going to go through in just this short collection update some of the new ones that I have added to my collection. That brings my collection up to 8 P99s. I can honestly say that is one of the largest P99 collections I know of. I'm not saying it's the largest in the world, but it's the largest one that I know of. I have my P99 Tech Mat out here again, and I have my P99 knife pointer. So let's start. Let's go from the least interesting to one of my Grail guns that was actually mentioned as one of my Grail guns in the last P99 video that I did. Ooh, what could it be? So let's start with the most generic. That would be my first OD Green P99. Yes, and there's some very interesting things to talk about with this one, so let's go ahead and safety check it. This one happens to be empty in the magazine and the chamber. So let's go ahead and talk about this. Yes, Walther offered, obviously, the OD Green frame here. I'm not sure, they may have also offered Desert Tan. Either that or you can get a nice Canik one, C-A-N-I-K. They're a Turkish company that offers copies of this. I'm more into the actual German one myself. If you're wondering where you can see the fingerprints and it looks so shiny on here, as I just recently ballastalled these. They're not actually that oily, but as I mentioned in a previous video, it does give them sort of a sheen, so it appears that they are more oily than they actually are. Anyway, so this OD Green Gen 140 P99. There are a couple things to note about this one. So it is obviously the Gen 1. You can tell that by the serrations and how there's no gouge here in the side where the two halves meet. I discussed this in my last video, some of the differences between the two. But this is my first laser etched P99. Now, Walther has been very, I don't know about mysterious, but not forthcoming with some of the details about when things were made and what types of processes they used when the P99 came out. And one of those is roll marks versus laser etching. This actually seems to be a combination of both. So roll marks is where the steel is actually pressed in. You can see here it says P99. That bit is roll marked. But if you look up here at the Walther logo, that is, in fact, laser etched. You can kind of run your finger over the top of it. It doesn't really dig in, where this, your finger catches on all the letters of P99. But what's particularly weird about this is if I compare it to my other Gen 1 P99, my other Gen 140 P99, excuse me, I gotta keep them straight because I have so many of these things now. This is entirely roll marked. You can see the Walther is roll marked, the P99 is roll marked, but look at the font differences. This has a P99 that takes up about this whole face of this slide here, almost from top to bottom. This has a different font altogether. It only takes up about a third. So very strange. I don't know why they would do that, but I like the little nuances that make all these different. Now, some people say, well, that's because the 40 P99s were made in, their slides were made in the US and the frames were made in Germany. That is incorrect, and in fact, it was actually cleared up, I recently found out, by Walther. A very small run of 40 slides were made. I mean, a very small, to the point that they're collectible. A very small run of 40 slides were made with the Gen 1, but by Smith & Wesson, excuse me, but this is not one of them, and it's very easy to see that, because if you go over to the other side, you have the eagle over N proof mark, which shows that the slide was proofed in Germany, which is where it was made. And you can also see the same thing on the barrel. And down here are all the proof marks for the frame. So this is entirely German made here. You'll see the Smith & Wesson logo. That freaks a lot of people out when they see that. I don't know why, though. That is the importer mark. Nearly all firearms that are imported, well, nearly all firearms in this country and all firearms that are imported are going to have a proof mark that or a importer mark here that shows who imported the firearms from overseas. It's an ATF thing. When a company imports them from overseas, that company needs to be labeled on the firearm. It's a legal thing. That's why it says Smith & Wesson. It's not that Smith & Wesson made any part of this. No, they imported it. It was made in Germany. And again, you have the proof marks on the frame or on the slide there showing that the slide was in fact made in Germany. So it is 100% German made. And looking at it, you have the nice OD green frame. And one thing that I'm actually happy that they did is they didn't color match the backstrap to the frame. I like that contrast. I like that OD green with the black. And in fact, that was one of the giveaways in Gunbroker, that this actually was the OD green one. I'm sure some people may have just scanned over this when they were looking because, oh, 40 is the more undesirable caliber of the P99. Well, I happened to notice this, but I noticed a color difference here, and I'm like, oh my goodness, is that an OD green one? And the OD green ones are going for a premium. In fact, I got this for, I want to say high sixes, something in that range, about the high end of 600. And now you can find OD green ones on there for over 1,000. But I do like like I said, I like the little nuances, the font change, the laser etching here. And it is 40, which, again, my first P99 was a 40. This is my actual first handgun here in the People's Republic of New York. Not out of choice. I wish that it was, in fact, the 9mm first, but this is what was available. I wanted the Gen 1, and this was my first handgun. And now I'm happy to finally have a P99 in OD green. So I covered most of the main differences there with this one. And again, I apologize for the sheen, but Ballistol does leave a film on there that doesn't work so great with cameras and an overhead light shining down on it. There we are. There's my OD green P99 Gen 1 40. Taking that off, let's move to a non-P99. Oh my god, this is a P99 collection update. Well, this both kind of is and is not a P99. Oh, I hit the camera there. Sorry about that. So, what am I talking about? I am talking about, of course, the PPQ. Now, this sort of is a P99 and sort of is not. What do I mean by that? Well, let's first safety check it. This one has a loaded magazine, but an empty chamber. I'll go ahead and put this magazine to the side so we don't end up putting a hole through this very nice wall over here. So the PPQ, a little bit about the PPQ. Why is it kind of a P99? Why is it not? Well, obviously it takes a lot of influence from the P99. That's because it is technically the next generation of the P99. Quick action, that's where the Q comes in, P99Q, and it is a direct descendant of the P99QA. So I've mentioned this before, but if you haven't seen my previous video, which again I will link in the description, there are a few different trigger types for the P99. The most common is the AS, the anti-stress trigger. This is the QA, the quick action trigger, which is basically your Glock style trigger. Every trigger pull is the same, but there are no second strike capabilities. So if you get a dud round, you have to rack the slide before you go ahead and pull the trigger again. But each trigger pull is, on Glock, it's about 5.5 pounds. This is a little bit heavier on this P99 QA, but that quick action trigger, which some people prefer every trigger pull the same instead of the double action going to single action like the anti-stress, the quick action trigger was adopted into the PPQ. So the PPQ took a lot of things from the P99. As you can see, the mag release, which you'll notice this is the paddle magazine release. They also, now they make it in a button magazine release. I waited specifically to get this one because it is the paddle magazine release. I greatly prefer it. Now you'll mostly find the button ones. You'll see, like I said, it's got the paddle magazine release. It's got the same overall shape of the P99. Oh my god, I'm going to point at the camera. But you'll see it has the angles of the P99, that kind of sloping in as you go up towards the top. It's got the same back plate pretty much, except that it's closed. The back here on the back plate, there's no opening here. Whereas on the P99, there is the opening, which if it's cocked, you will see the striker stricken through. The striker sticking through there. That obviously is not the case here. And that's because it doesn't have a cocked or an uncocked striker. Well, it sort of does. The AS trigger here has first round double action, but subsequent shots single action. That's why you can see the red striker there. It shows that the pistol is in the single action mode. This doesn't need that because there is no single action mode. It's got the quick trigger all the time, so it's a consistent trigger pull. Now the trigger can be decocked just like a Glock if you pull the trigger with the chamber empty. Let's go ahead and do another quick check here. Right now the striker is decocked, but you can't fire it, whereas like with the AS and it's double action, single action trigger, you would be able to fire it in double action, but this has the same consistent trigger just like a Glock on each pull. So the back is closed, but one thing I like, as I was examining the PPQ, never having actually held one before, and I think I've held one, but I have obviously never owned one before, this back plate where it's closed back here, it's a metal back plate. I thought that was a very nice touch. I'm quite happy with a few things like that with the PPQ. I'm happy with the, like it also has the ambidextrous slide release here. When I took this apart and was examining the inside of it, I was quite happy with a few things that Walther's done with this pistol. I wasn't sure that I was going to like this all that much because, you know, I am a P99 fan and this is technically the next generation. By the way, I'll get the debate out of the way right off the bat. I like the looks of the P99 way better. I don't like this. No. The P99 looks better. But I do have to give this credit where it's due. I like the fact that they have that metal back plate in there. The grip on this handgun seems to fit my hand better. While I don't like this little macaroni noodle, I have no idea what the hell's going on with this grip texture stuff. It does seem to mold to my hand a little bit better. It's still got the 3 interchangeable back straps, just like the P99s. I actually happen to have the medium one in here. It comes with a small and a larger one, which kind of has like a beaver tail thing going on. It does have a phenomenal trigger, though. It has a trigger that will definitely beat a Glock trigger. The only thing is, the P99 in AS mode has a trigger that's better. I would say they're pretty darn close, but I would say the single action in the regular P99 AS trigger is slightly better. It has the serrations, the front and the rear serrations. I think, again, they look better on the P99 and especially the Gen 1 P99, but at least here with the serrations up front, you can do press checks like that. And I like checking by the front up here instead of like bending around to try to check to see if there's a round in the chamber here. But I took this out shooting the other day, and it definitely has a nice trigger. It's got a nice weight to it. It's a little bit of a different size than the P99. The grip is actually a little bit larger. Some of your holsters won't work. However, my Galco Miami Classic over-the-shoulder holster, which I carried it in, couldn't tell the difference between this and a P99. Oh yeah, I was mentioning that I like the direction Walther has gone with this pistol, actually giving it some love. If you actually go on Walther's YouTube channel, they actually, and most companies won't do this, they do a full detail strip in this firearm, and I'm not talking about... Okay guys, you take this out, you pop the barrel out. Okay, your firearm's detail stripped, you can clean it. No, I mean, they'll knock every pin out of the frame. They'll take the entire slide apart. They want this to be a gun that you can actually work on to like an armorer level. And they provide all that information right in YouTube videos. And I was like, wow, Walther's actually caring about and listening to their customers. And I was like, yeah, thumbs up to Walther. So I'll put this back together here real quick. And again, this has the ballast on it too. That's why it looks so shiny. Not made for filming. So yeah, that is pretty much the PPQ. You'll see this also has those import marks right there. Here they moved away from Smith & Wesson to Walther has their own distributor in Fort Smith, Arkansas, where Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, sorry, I didn't see you back there. The fine presidents and almost presidents are from. Whew, boy, I'm sorry, I saw a noose coming up behind my head. Yes, where those wonderful people are from. It's also the home of the Grand Canyon. All right, so that's the PPQ. And lastly, this is one of my grail guns. If you listened in my first video of the P99 collection, I said at the end where I would like to see my collection go on from here. I think I did mention the OD green ones, but I also mentioned the one P99 that I wanted that was being elusive to me. Very hard to find. But the one that I wanted, I finally, just the good grace, I've been buying a lot of guns on Gunbroker because, Dementia Joe's trying to ban all online firearm sales. And by the way, all 3 of these firearms were purchased online and they were picked up on the same day. Probably made the ATF shit their trousers, as they say. But here it is, the Grail gun that I mentioned from the first one. So happy that I finally picked this up. That is the P99 titanium coated Gen 1 9mm. This is exactly the one that I wanted. I would see these come up every now and then in the 40 configuration. I was like, oh, damn, that's so close. I would see Gen 2s of these come up in titanium coated 9mm. Like, that's close too, but that's not exactly what I wanted. I wanted the Gen 1 titanium coated P99. This is going to be a safe queen for me. This, I think, is used, but if it is, it hasn't been shot that much. I'm not going to shoot it because one of the problems with these titanium coated slides is the coating is so hard that it will actually start flaking off if you shoot it. It's like brittle. Basically, I'm just going to keep this in the safe and maybe put a couple magazines through it on a rare occasion, but I just kind of wanted it as a showpiece. But the titanium coated P99 Gen 1, I'll go ahead and drop the magazine down here. Of course, all these are the neutered New York unsafe magazines. Why would you ever need more than 10 rounds? And first of all, you don't need to demonstrate the need for anything. Like, why do you need the phone or the computer that you're watching this video on? And second of all, I think just last week I saw a video where somebody took 12 rounds of 9mm to the face before they finally stopped beating, I think, a police officer over the head with a large pipe. Anywho, if you need more than 1 round, you need to get back to the range. I don't know. If you're talking about hunting, I don't know. I don't hunt, but a little side rant there. Let's take a look at this. Make sure it is, in fact, clear, of course. So, the titanium coated one there, this was, like I said, this was one of my Grail P99s. To find these is pretty rare nowadays, but I wanted one that was Gen 1, 9mm, and I wanted it to be billboarded like this, where it actually says titanium coated, kind of like over the top. Like if I was going to get a Desert Eagle, I want like a gold tiger stripe Desert Eagle, like gaudy and over the top. The P99s that were titanium coated, I don't know if they were titanium coated or chromed, before this were called QPQs, quench, polish, quench. They had these like silver slides, but they didn't have the phrase titanium coating on there. I guess those are the more desirable ones, I guess, to some people. Not to me. I wanted this. A couple reasons for that. In the Underworld movies, which I've never seen, but I can tell you, Kate Beckinsale in a PVC catsuit. I'm not going to complain too much about that. She wields 2 of these, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. Where's my gamers at? You'll notice that the P99 is in the game, but not only the P99, this exact titanium coated one. As if you reload when he's got the gun like this, you will see it says titanium coated. It's this exact P99 from Modern Warfare. And this is almost like the special edition. And with a gun that I love this much, the P99 series, I wanted the special edition. So this is about as fancy as you can get, unless I get, and I'm still kicking myself for not, one of the in the next P99 update, you'll see I have one of these too. One of the collectible of the year editions, like they had one in 2000 that comes with a VHS tape. You remember those, kids? A VHS tape. It comes with some scroll work on the side, on the slide. It comes like with a book, I think. The test target, obviously. By the way, these all came with test targets. Walthers, one of the companies that will show you, that they'll include in the box the test target that they shot at, I think, 15 meters, showing that the gun is actually able of performing accurately. And I think in that special edition, it comes with like a wood case. There's a few special editions that I go for. There's also one called like the Chase edition, which is like a hunting edition. It comes with like a walnut backstrap. There's a few. I think there is a on Her Majesty's Secret Service, like a nod to James Bond type one, and I'd like to pick one of those up, but the prices are just a little bit, how should I say, completely, totally outrageous recently. But yeah, here it is. This was one of my Grail P99s, imported by Smith and Wesson, of course, with the proof mark on the slide and the frame there. Yeah, here we have it. So 20 minutes now to show my little update to my P99 collection. Finally got the Grail one. I know a lot of people seem to like these P99s, and I like fondling them and showing them off to you guys. Oh yeah, and while I'm here looking at it, this doesn't. I believe that's etched and filled. I believe that's what it is. It's not roll marked, but it looks like it's etched and filled, almost with like a rose gold type thing, or like a brass. You can see it's got that different color on there, and where it says titanium coated too. Very nice. Go once over. 9x19. Pointing the gun at the camera. It's all right. Nope, not taken out by the Rona. Just enjoying life. What's weird is not only not taken out by Rona. Little side here at the end, though. I'm a diver. I'm a dive master. Well, you might not, but if you do now, I've got more diving in during this Corona pandemic than in probably like the last 3 years. I think this pandemic is an absolute joke. So yeah, I spend my time buying guns because, again, who knows how long it's going to be that you can still get them online. All right, thanks for watching this little update, and we'll see when my next P99 collection update is. Some might say I have a problem. Yeah, the problem is I don't have them all, right? All right, thanks for watching, guys. Take it easy.